This podcast is rated R for restricted. Under 17 requires accompanying parent or adult guardian.
Guys, we're at episode 30. Can you believe it?
Damn.
Wait, 30 left?
Yeah, 30 left. Well, 29 left at this point.
Wow. Jesus Christ.
That's kind of
a
nuts.
lot.
It's a lot of movies.
It's crazy.
Some might say too many movies.
Yep.
John asked me to repost. I reposted Tokyo Story last week, so I listened to it a bit to see if it was
nice.
Good. And we recorded that one 5 years ago.
Holy shit.
And it was 2 years, because we used to do like, for the first few years until the pandemic, we did literally every week, and we never did bonus episodes. So we blasted through the first 100 movies in 2 years. And 5 years later, we're another 100 down the list.
Shit.
So kind of slowing down here a bit.
We'll catch up.
Yeah, as long as we keep doing the podcast, we're never going to die. That's the way that works.
Well,
That's
that's
exactly
true.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is true.
It's keeping us alive.
That was the contract I signed. I don't know if that was in your guys' fine print. But
Hey,
the deal with the devil.
It's in the fine print.
It was there,
Go
yeah.
fuck yourself.
You get to
We're
live
gonna be here
forever, but you have to do a
Yeah.
podcast with the same two guys every week for the rest
That's right.
of eternity. Yeah, I'll
That's
take
right.
that deal. That's a pretty good
What
deal.
if I didn't want to be your
It all
friend?
sounded good
Right?
at
Like,
first.
what if I thought, like, you know what? I've had enough of these two. I'm not your friend.
Then you,
Well, then you
I
die.
can't get out of it.
no, I think
I'm still stuck.
then your
I'm still
soul is
stuck.
owed to the devil. I think.
That's true. That's right. Then you got to get help.
Yeah, then it
Jesus
turns into
Christ.
hell. This is hell
That's
then
right.
if you
That's
start
true.
disliking it.
And you know what? You go to hell, and we're there.
Yeah.
Because
And
that's
then
what the
it's
devil
just
will do
the
to
three
you.
of
Yeah.
us, right? Just hanging tight.
Except you got to
Slightly
do
hotter.
it every
Yep.
day.
Yep, sweating our balls off.
That's right. And
Yeah.
you only get to watch Lifetime movies.
But hey,
Oh,
we're
no.
still friends in
That's
that
right.
in that realm.
It's Hachi
Which is
every
great.
week.
Hachi every week. Hachi
Yeah.
part 2.
Oh God, Richard
Hachi
Gere
had
just
kids.
over and over and over again.
That's right. He's so
Jesus
soulful.
Christ.
He's got such pretty eyes.
So what are we doing?
So what are we
today?
doing? We're pretty close to number one. I wanted to point that out because this week we're watching Saving Private Ryan,
Oh yeah,
which is
That's
the
right.
highest
What a
rated
movie.
war movie on the list.
Of all time.
Okay.
If you don't count Schindler's List, I don't know if you would count that.
I don't
I mean,
know.
it's
either.
not.
That's a tough one.
It's. Yeah, I wouldn't call it. That's not about a war. It's not about battle. Combat,
right.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
war.
No, it's
so-
about drama.
Around.
Certainly,
Yeah.
certainly around the war,
Right.
but it's not a war movie where
Yeah.
it depicts the actual war parts, right?
Yeah, if you like
So-
if you like explosions, maybe you'll like this one. I don't know. TC, guess what? It's your
Yeah.
turn to go first on this one.
Okay,
Go TC.
all right. It's a good thing I've been drinking, because
Does he got,
that's what
does
you
he got
might.
notes or is he texting
No,
somebody
because
right now?
it's what you might need when you're watching this fucking movie.
Yep.
Which, by the way, I
That's
thought
true.
very much nailed it as far as like what a story needs to be. When you look at back how this story develops versus what you should do as a writer as far as like the formula, it hits all the beats. You know, I noticed a lot when I was watching it that the story beats were very much like just constant. Boom, boom, boom. We got the opening. We've got the best subversion that you've ever seen.
Yeah, dude, I hadn't
Which
seen
is-
this in a while. Spoilers if you
Oh,
haven't seen this in a
What
while.
a great subversion.
Did you guys think that Tom Hanks was the guy at
It
the
was
graveyard?
him.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, because
100%.
it wasn't
Yeah.
only that, like, I
They
thought
got
it was
his
about
eyes.
Tom Hanks, but then it zooms in
Oh.
on his eyes and does the same
Dude,
thing after.
It goes in and it uses directorial, like feelings to really subvert your whole understanding of what this movie is.
Yeah.
I thought for sure, even though
Oh,
I've seen
wow.
this movie multiple times,
You forgot,
that it
huh?
was Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
I was like,
it shows the
that's
same blue eyes.
right. It's Tom Hanks. And they,
At the end, when he's
subversion-
like on the ground, I'm like, how's he going to get out of this one? He seems pretty
that's
injured
it.
right
You
now.
got
I know,
yourself
I
in a
know,
scrap
I
there,
know.
Tom.
and honestly, when it comes back to fruition, where the two of them will look at each other while Tom Hanks dies, I thought that was fantastic. I thought that really closed the loop on what we, as the audience, didn't understand at the beginning. And I just thought that the writing, it was very, very good as far as like, hey, audience, you should be thinking this. And then what we actually end up with is totally different. And, I loved every minute of it. I thought that this story ultimately was fantastic as a film. Now, with that said,
what does that mean? Okay.
I don't believe that most of this was real. like in reality, right? Like it was so, like they were using the story to tell something that wasn't real in the reality of how we think about World War. I just thought to myself the whole time, fucking A, this is a great story. Now, I don't think it's real as far as what we ended up with, right? I don't think that like you can go back and say that like, oh, Saving Private Ryan nailed it as far as history is concerned. But as far as a movie is concerned, what a fantastic story. You know, I think the story world really held up. I think the acting was fantastic. The fact that we got Tom Hanks from the beginning being like someone important, and then when we finally find out that he's just a teacher, that was awesome. I thought that was fantastic. As far as someone that was watching the story, you don't necessarily find that out and be like, oh, because you think he's a general, a star, a stud. He's going to figure it out. Everyone's looking on him to figure out what the next steps are. Nobody knows what the best steps are, but he's going to figure it out. And to find out that he was a teacher, that was fantastic. I've seen this movie multiple times, and it's been a long time since I've been there, and I did not remember that. So
when was the last time you watched it? Like the most recent time you watched it? Oh,
God, it had to have been in college. 15 years ago, 10 years ago, at least. I just thought that some of those things were really well done, and really, it took the audience on a ride, and the subversion of some of the things that we didn't understand as an audience member really came true once it came to fruition later in the story. And I think it was great because we got to enjoy all of those things prior to that last setup, which was like, let's fuck these guys up, right? We got to a point where Tom Hanks was a part of the story, which he was the origin of the story at the beginning. And then when we get to that last fight, it's almost irrelevant what he's done up until then, because at the end of the day, his personality rings true when they go to fight those Germans on that little avenue, right? All of the things he's ever done as a character actually make sense when he finally decides to stay put, keep, Matt Damon in the mix, and we all fight the Germans. It's just all of those things that he did prior to that came to fruition there at the end. And I thought it was fantastic. And I had not seen this movie in a long time.
That's awesome.
They did a great job.
That's really, I don't want to ruin, I don't want to wreck your positive parade. Now I'm very positive about this movie, but I actually had like a totally different perspective of it, because I thought the story part was kind of the part that I cared the least amount about. But I still would say that you don't even need the story. Like for you, like that's great that you liked it the most, but you don't even really need to love the story to think this movie is incredible. Because what I take away from this movie,
what you're hitting on is exactly what I'm saying, right? Like the story was so easy to interpret that like we get to that last final, like just cookie cutter scene of like, will the protagonist fight against the antagonist, and what is it? And we had no clue that the protagonist really wasn't the focal point of the story, right? Like the protagonist is just there to do his job. But in reality, like we get to Matt Damon and it doesn't really matter anymore, right? Like that's not that important to the story at this point. Like the important part is exactly what they've been saying throughout the whole story, which was we need to fight. And the principle is that we need to continue to fight throughout, regardless of what the situation is. And we get to this like inflection point of the two of them, Damon, Tom Hanks, banding together and being like, it doesn't matter what else happened. Like the principle is we're going to fight regardless of what the reality is. And just seeing that like, I don't know, come to Jesus moment almost between the multiple characters, you almost forget who the protagonist is at that part. Because we're driving this whole movie towards Matt Damon. But that's not exactly what the story is. So I thought it was fantastic. I enjoyed every goddamn minute of it. And, and I realized when I was younger that I didn't quite get it. I didn't quite understand what the story was trying to get. And the story was trying to get us all to when you're a human being and you have, convictions, that is more important than whatever situation you're in. when your convictions come to fruition, that is the most important thing from the human connection. And I just thought it was great.
You know how Spielberg described the intent of the point of this movie?
What?
He thought he wanted to call it Search for Miller, or Miller is the Tom Hanks character, or The Search for Decency. Because he thought the whole point of the movie was in a war where everything is terrible, like it's just murder and shit and mud and all that stuff. He wanted
what are
to
your
kind
principles?
And they just wanted to like say, okay, we're gonna try to do something good in all of this shit. And the good thing was to give a mother back their son, and that was
well, not even that. It's just give the mother back her son, while also understanding that there is a morality that is involved with every soldier. It doesn't matter if the guy's going to kill you or not. There's some guy involved that's just a teacher, right? Like they're trying to, give you the idea that like at the end of the day, sometimes the best fucking person out there is just the normal person trying to protect the things that they love, right? I think that's what they were going for the entire time. And it came across more often than not. There was some missteps with like that character that just always disagreed with him. Right?
Yeah, the guy who survived kind of the entire time.
Yeah, right. And that was just there to continue on our story. But otherwise, their overall idea was spot on, and I loved every minute of it.
Nice. John, are you as positive as TC?
I'm in the middle. I definitely agree with your statement, though. No matter what, there's parts of this film that are like unquestionably amazing. I found it. I hadn't seen this since seeing it in the theater, and I did not want to see it again.
That's a long time ago, John.
I found it very upsetting then, and found it even more upsetting now.
Yeah, well,
I
was more upset during this viewing. What the hell is it when you age? Like this shit is just more realistic or something?
I'm old. Yeah, I'm old, but I went in a very bad place where just they're showing these young kids, and when one started yelling for his mommy, like a kid does
tough.
when fucking hurt. Yeah. And now that I have kids,
multiple times in the movie that happens.
It fucked me up. I walked out of the room and left it playing. I started to bawl.
It's serious. That's how good the movie is.
No, it's fucking intense. No, it's really, no matter what else you say about it, the intensity of the combat scenes is unlike anything. I mean, we've
and
seen
it's not
really
fun, right? I mean, like it's weird how like this movie. There's a lot of movies that show violent war stuff. I mean, and the way this movie does it is like as bombastic and as fast cut, and as many people dying, but there's something about it that's like it feels
far
real.
More, right. And part of that is the acting during the scenes too. That's very important, right? And the way it's written and what they're doing and how they're afraid and confused and all of that. So that totally works in those scenes. You're right, and
the lack of colors, the lack of music during,
the
especially like all the action scenes, shaky cam footage, the acting, the way the sound syncs up with
it's fucking
the
terrifying.
Gore. And, like there's a lot of gore.
But it really hits home what it would have
the
been
intestine
like
stuff is just too much.
Yeah, it's never. But
like people have made fun of the scene where the guy's wandering around and picks his arm up, like that's some kind of joke.
Why?
But watching it, I don't know.
That's a fantastic scene.
It was
that
terrifying.
is one of those scenes where it's like, that happened more often than you think.
Yeah.
Right.
The only people that are making fun of that are the ones that never ever experienced something that dramatic in their lives.
Well, it's also I think people that are removed from this, because I hadn't seen this in probably 20 years or something, and I remember it being disturbing. But then over 20 years, you're like, it's a war movie. It's not going to be that bad. Mm-hmm. But then watching it again now, I'm like, holy shit! The stuff they show in this movie is nothing. Is top tier.
But it's also nothing in compared to what the people went through.
Right? Yeah. And in terms of numbers and, all that
I think for me, that was the most important part. Like, I was watching this thing being like, this is a joke in comparison to what goes on in war, right? The things that we're living, among, which is the Israeli-Hamas war. That's nothing. That's a joke in comparison to reality. And just to see it and also feel that this is a lot, right? Like, you're watching a movie and you're like, fucking hey, that might happen. Like, that's when you realize that this movie did exactly what it was supposed to do. which was to get you to think about it. And they did it really well. I mean, this might be one of the best movies ever that touches on war and doesn't make you think, oh, that's a situation where America was better, or that's a situation where France was better, or that's a situation where Germans were better. Like,
you didn't get a little bit of that? I got a little bit of that.
Well, there's
just
a little
because
bit of
it ends on the American flag.
Well, of course, because they actually move forward, right? They actually get past that
and this
initial.
war is kind of easy too, right? Because we're like definitively we're on the right side of World War II for the most part, right? There was bad stuff that happened. In hindsight,
if you think about it in the sense that like we all know that we won, it's easier to think that way. But I think that they touch on things that are very relatable, whether you're the winner or the loser. And I think that's what they did well.
And what I took away, I mean, so everything you're saying is a good point. The thing that stuck out the most to me is the way they showed like the casual loss of life, like how like when you just read numbers, it's hard to imagine like what that means, and then it's showing you at the ground level what it means for like one person to die, let alone the 40 million people that died during this. Like none of them died in a good way. Every one of them died in a horrible way.
Right.
And it shows
there was no clean death.
Yeah, it's completely nauseating watching it.
Right. It is. And the death of the medic was, I mean, over and over, a lot of terrifying things. Like the battle scenes were terrifying. The death of the medic, the close combat scene during the bridge was horrifying.
The knife scene.
Vin Diesel.
Yeah, the knife scene.
Vin Diesel's.
No, the guy
bit there.
Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel wasn't too bad.
Yeah, it was that was even more Hollywood.
What I took away from
that one felt a little less.
No, but what I took away from that is that there was a lot of those situations where you watched your friend get shot.
Yeah.
And there was nothing you could do.
Right.
I think the best part of that scene was the acting of the family in the house and how the dad was giving the kid away and all that stuff was pretty heartbreaking too.
Just to add to the tension, right?
Yeah.
But those scenes were just
But the slow knife in the chest, that's that scene. I remember that scene like the worst freaking thing I've ever seen. And holy crap, I think I'm actually not even sure I watched this uncut back when it came out because there were some shots that I don't remember being there. It could just be because I blocked them out. But that knife into the chest scene lasted for about 15 seconds. Yeah, and I remember it being like 3 seconds in my head.
It is terrifying. It's still, again, that one, all of that stuff is terrifying, and the acting during it is good. I think maybe for me, it might just be in comparison to the intensity of those shots. The other stuff feels more posed and contrived, or like
I don't like the comedy in this movie. I think it's really odd how there's so much like buddy stuff. Like even though that kind of happens, like that was the majority of the middle sections. It was either like reminiscing about home or joking around, which
and
again,
which isn't that usual though.
It sounds like, but also it felt totally out of place.
It didn't work.
I don't know.
But isn't that the reality of war? Right? Like, it is out of place.
But it still felt like strangely, like even the opening shot was strange how the family sort of gathers around him as if they're awkwardly posing for a picture and they zoom in on the eyes. That was a little strangely done. But then too, like there's sequences in the film where there's tension and then somebody makes a big speech. And then there's tension and somebody makes a big speech. And this happens like 2 or 3.
The big speech part that really, I was just like, that didn't work, was where the army guy who's good at shooting, who survived the entire time, was leaving because they let the soldier go. And Tom Hanks made a speech. And I didn't think the speech there was very good at all, but it convinced the guy to stick with the team. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I didn't dislike that scene, and what he said was okay, but I mean, like, it was supposed to be some big moment where he, like, grouped everyone together, but all he did was talk about the $300 wager he had on him.
And it still just feels more staged the way it's done. Like, everybody's just kind of standing around like they're watching the movie too, sort of. It's like, I don't know. It just didn't feel, I think
we're criticizing this a lot from the get-go. I just want to say this movie's a 10 out of 10, and it's incredible.
I want to say, as far as, like, arguing against that, to be devil's advocate, I mean, you're talking about people that are in a situation where they don't understand those things, and like they're making nervous energy, which is to laugh.
Nervous jokes, I expect.
No, I know. I'm just saying what you're saying is that like it didn't land as far as the movies.
Right. Yeah. I'm telling you, totally get that.
I would agree there. I would agree there. I just think it's tough. That's a tough thing to convey.
It's tough.
Doesn't
I think we've seen that better in Full Metal Jacket and some other war films, right? So we've seen the kind of either camaraderie or hatred amongst soldiers or
and why.
But also, happens. To your point too, TC, there are scenes like what I remember the scene thinking that when they were trying to fix the medic and they were just like pushing gauze around on him. Like, that's not how you do it. What the fuck are you doing? You guys are fucking up. This is ridiculous.
They're trying to ask him what is. None of them know what the fuck to do.
That's exactly right. So this time,
he's the medic, right?
It's not that. No, what it is, and what I got from that situation was they all know he's dead.
Oh.
I don't know. It seemed like they were clueless. They were totally zero knowledge.
No.
Except for
the reason why they kept asking him, tell us what to do, was because he's the medic. So it's going to make him feel better as he dies.
Well, no, I think
that
we can disagree on this, but I think the majority of the first part of that is that they are trying to save him, and when they finally start giving him the morphine, that's when they're like, that's when they turn in their own heads.
There's a reason why he said just keep giving him morphine. Like,
but that was towards the end of it.
No, I know, but he already had thought he's dead, right? So like, he's the leader. He's saying to himself, "This guy's fucking toast." The rest of them are trying their best to make sure that he doesn't die.
Right.
Not realizing that the leader, and this is why it's important, the leader has already said in his mind, he's dead.
Well, yeah. So I could agree with that, but what I'm saying is that people active on his chest, they're not doing
but they're
common sense
also
things.
not medics.
Right. That's exactly my point. This is your point where it's like there are things that initially you might think that's stupid. Everyone knows this, but these kids don't know anything. Right. So it's kind of like.
Right. And then what it comes to is the most important point, which is the leader knows already.
Like, he knew, and that's why he's starts giving him the morphine and giving him more. Like, you're just like, what can I do for you?
Yeah, you can try to bandage this all you want, but we all know he's dead.
That whole scene was terrifying.
I know. I know.
Paul Giamatti, not as old Paul Giamatti, was fun to watch.
Tony Danza, what the fuck? Where did he come from?
What was that about?
Yeah, I was like, how many celebrities are in this movie? Those were kind of odd moments too. I was like, it could have been anybody else but Paul Giamatti. Come on, he doesn't need to be in this.
I shit you not. I'm on the plane coming back from Massachusetts, okay? And I'm watching Saving Private Ryan.
On the plane?
4 hours. Oh, on the plane,
God.
baby. And I kept looking over at her, and I'm like, it's Vin Diesel. And I shit you not, my girlfriend's watching Land Before Time. So if you could see the image of like the two seats, one's talking about a star fucking,
tree star.
And the other's watching fucking just absolute.
Both of you are crying.
Internal bleeding, right?
They shouldn't have that on rental on airplanes. Yeah. Holy shit.
And I'm looking at her, and I'm like,
on airplanes.
Babe, it's Vin Diesel. And she's like, what? I'm like, it's fucking Vin Diesel, dude. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, it's Vin Diesel. She's like, well, this is a star plant, so we're not going to worry about Vin Diesel.
Maybe she likes Nathan Fillion. There's a young Nathan Fillion trying to do some comedic relief, which was weird.
I mean, it was really just an interesting movie.
Nathan Fillion, he was the other Private Ryan that wasn't the right Private Ryan.
Oh, shit, dude. That scene was funny. I said I didn't like the funniest scenes, but I was laughing out loud.
So me and my brothers are okay.
He's like, wait, how are you sure? He scared the shit out of that guy.
And that was Castle. Yeah, right. Yeah. Nathan, he's just too perfect. Yeah.
It was.
He's like, can you be sure?
You guys all laughed at that? Okay. We were like, this is a horrible moment. Why are we laughing so hard?
After the first part of the film, I was fucked. The rest of the film, I was just miserable, and it didn't and that might have been my problem with watching the rest of the film. No, I was just miserable.
I was laughing, and I was like, I feel odd laughing at this movie because I previously felt so sick, and now I'm laughing.
No, but you know what I think is different than, say, the Private Joker, where you think to yourself, like, that was funny. The shit they were saying was also kind of funny. There wasn't a lot of that. Like, even the jokes they were saying were mired in just depression. Mm-hmm. Like, they were saying jokes because everybody was falling apart. Whereas Private Joker and the rest in Private Cowboy, they were just being funny because they were being funny. It had nothing to do with like the actual situation they were in. So I did notice that too, that like some of this stuff that they were joking about really didn't land as far as like making me as the audience happier, right? Like, I felt like the jokes they were making up to the sniper were like not funny because maybe it's because I knew that they were gonna die, but it just wasn't the same. There wasn't like, I guess in this movie there was not an ability to take a moment, take a breath, make a joke. They really went through it. Boom, 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 boom. The editing was very tight in this. Like, you didn't really have and I think that was on purpose because it was supposed to make us like understand that this is not a moment of like, you don't get to relax. Whereas in,
it's a nice tight 3 hours.
Oh, God, it was, though.
It's so long.
I mean, it was long, but it was very quick. There was not moments where I thought I was bored. I was very much
I paused once to get up and I was like, wow, I'm an hour and 40 minutes in. This seems like I'm at the beginning still because like there were a few scenes that I remembered.
Oh, just you're moving through it and you're not, I felt good after watching it on the plane because I was like, this is great. Making the time go by. Thanks,
you didn't get the 5.1 with the massive sound on this movie.
Now, Denny, I have to ask you, did you remember from watching this when you were younger, like I did, that Tom Hanks was the star? I remember Matt Damon being the star for some reason. I don't know why.
I knew it was Tom Hanks, but Naomi didn't. It was funny because as soon as they showed his face, she remembered immediately. But she was like, "Oh yeah, Tom Hanks," but like she didn't put it together.
Put it two and two together. Yeah.
I think I remembered because honestly, he's on the cover of the poster of this movie. So maybe I filled in the gap looking at the poster a while ago or something.
I think it was just that the fact that we end up on that guy's eyes and then it goes to Tom Hanks. And I was like, oh shit, I forget which one's the protagonist. You don't really know.
Yeah, that was pretty tricky.
Hanks. It was good times. This is a good movie to watch. I hope that the rest of the movies that we have on this list bring me to such,
I don't think this movie, reaction. I was with John. I was holding back tears a lot of the movie. I didn't have to leave the room. There were scenes where Naomi watched the whole thing with me. She was gasping during certain parts. Not just like, I don't know, different kinds of gasps. I haven't heard her gasp like this in a movie before. Things where she like had to quickly shield her eyes because she was, envisioning herself being scarred for the rest of her life by watching it, sort of thing.
Wow. And your baby too.
Yeah,
that's right.
Baby's first scary movie.
Internally, I know it.
Yeah,
right.
The stomach is tensing up. This is no good for the baby.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's already constipated because of this goddamn movie.
Yeah,
right.
But I think I don't know. This is a really long movie, and I didn't necessarily like all the quiet scenes. I thought the acting was pretty good, but I thought the stories were only good because of the acting. I didn't think there was actually any point to a lot of it.
It did feel like,
interesting.
I don't know.
Like a scene where the guys, I remember a scene of the medic talking about how he like laid in bed with his eyes closed and his mom came in.
Right.
And I remember thinking that was like profound when I was younger, but now I'm just like, that doesn't mean anything. It's like, it's relatable because like, But when I was a kid, I was like, that's relatable. And I think I've done the same thing. And if I was put to war, then maybe I'd regret not spending time with my mother. That's pretty damn profound. But now I'm just like, I don't know. Everyone's going to have regrets in different ways. Like it's kind of a nothing story. And he doesn't know why he did that. It doesn't matter if he doesn't. I don't know.
I think what they're trying to convey, which I know doesn't land because I'm with you, is that like at that age, that's where you are in your brain.
Right.
Is to like think about those things. But I don't know if it landed either because it wasn't obvious with how they relayed that dialogue to us.
Yeah.
But I did like Matt Damon's story. I thought that was great. I thought his acting was really good. I was confused by his character's lack of sadness, perceived sadness at least. When they teach him that his brothers are dead, he's just standing there and he doesn't, I don't know. Maybe this is how people react, but my head's just like, he's not very sad. This would be like absolutely devastating news. Maybe it's because he's in a very odd situation. He's able to handle it this way.
But I also think that it's a military family. So they don't think like me and you do. Normal people.
That's true. There's a lot of that in this movie that I give excuses, but
that you don't understand.
Yeah.
As a person that wasn't in the military.
Yeah. I'm just like,
in fact,
and I agree
really
with that, which is why I can't knock it for it. But I'm just pointing out like there was a bunch of disconnects I had while watching the movie with the characters.
I actually really liked the way that he responded, which is like, if my mom is fucking hearing this, she'll know. Fuck off. There's 4 of us that are military people. Like she already made terms with the fact that we're gonna die on the way out, right? But what I'm with you on is that I don't think necessarily that in the story that was believable.
I want my hand held in movies. Come on, haven't we? We need proof of character motivation. That's what I need. I don't need it.
Yeah, I don't need it. I don't.
But and then I think the last thing, small quibble. Hans Zimmer, not my favorite one of his scores. Probably my least favorite score of his we've watched so far.
Yeah, it didn't really. I mean, yeah. It was better when it was more dramatic during the quiet parts by far.
Yeah.
I don't know if the right. It was a very generic sounding score.
It was generic and it was in a lot of scenes that could have used no music. Like again, it seemed like whenever the music was there, it was, even though it was quiet, it was over too much of it or for too long or something.
Interesting. Then you got to wonder if he like used a template. You know what I mean? Like at the time, he's like, "Oh, Saving Private Ryan, go get fucked." Here's my template from Pirates of the Caribbean, and it's the same shit. Good luck. Yeah.
You know, this movie is one of the famous years that another movie won Best Picture over it.
What movie won? I don't even remember then.
Shakespeare in Love.
Oh my God.
This movie won Best Director, but lost Best Picture to Shakespeare in Love.
Shakespeare in Love.
Really?
So my recommendation for next week is we watch Shakespeare in Love, you guys.
Nope.
It's at least it's a lighthearted comedy.
Oh, there's actually another war movie,
Nope.
because another movie that
It's a
lost Best
negative.
Picture is Life is Beautiful. I'm not sure it's a war movie. It's a prisoner camp movie during World War II.
It's
but
POW movie, yeah.
POW movie.
More like the Schindler's List kind
Is
of
that
movie.
like a genre now? POW movie?
We're going to watch that one.
I guess. Which one?
Life is Beautiful, isn't that on our list?
It is on the list, yep.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I talked shit about it, because now I can eat my words when I like it, right? Because that's how life
Maybe.
goes. Yeah.
I noticed the guy from Seven that has to do the thing with the blades on the thing is in this movie.
What's in the box?
Do you guys know that scene? The guy's freaking out when he's in custody.
Yeah.
The pilot of the crashed plane is the actor who does that.
That's the guy who is Lust, isn't it? Lust is the sin he's being punished
the
for.
Lust victim
Yeah.
in Seven. Same actor.
Oh man.
I was like, wow, it's been a long time since I've seen Seven, but I can tell him. You know, it's burned into my head.
It's that guy.
It's a good movie.
Yeah. That's
you
coming
gotta
up.
watch that one, too.
That's coming up.
What's in the box?
See, that's a very serious scene, yet people are making fun of it all the time.
That's what I'm
and it gets
saying.
away with it.
Yeah, but
Right.
the movie is still, I don't know. It's like
It's a lot
comic
funnier
book
than this
almost
one.
thing.
You know,
Yeah, it
you
is.
got a
It's
bunch of
hilarious.
good laughs. You got Kevin Spacey coming out there in the end,
Funnier.
popping jokes. It's pretty good stuff. TC, as a sound geek, you should have. I'm a little sad you didn't watch this in a giant system, because the sound is amazing
Well,
in this movie. During the battle scene specifically, but like even during most of the other scenes, there's like atmospheric background noises of either like a thunderstorm coming or like other battles happening elsewhere, and it's like a real low end sort of constant thing going on. It's pretty nice.
That is cool.
And the tank at the end too, where like they're waiting for the tanks and you can't even see it. That's a pretty sound based scene. You know, it keeps getting louder and louder and all that stuff. Pretty good.
That must be nice. Yeah.
All you're hearing is on the
All I heard
airplane.
on the airplane was like,
You got noise
That's it.
cancelers?
Yeah. I do. But
Okay.
not on those. They don't.
Oh, you don't
They
plug
don't.
them in. That's right.
No,
Can't
no,
plug
but
in
they
those.
don't have noise canceling. They got stereo, baby.
Can you plug in a CAN headset on the
Yeah,
airplane?
you plug it into stereo. That's it.
Oh, but you can get noise canceling, can't you?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if you have noise canceling headphones and the source that you have that you're watching is stereo. You're not going to get any noise canceling like enjoyment.
Yeah, you are. The headphones are the things that noise cancel, not the source of audio.
Yeah, but still, like you're not going to get anything better than
Less
the movie.
white noise.
Yeah, no, you might
good
get
for
quiet.
airplanes. Yeah.
but like it's the same thing as having a stereo headphones on with no noise cancellation. Like you're not receiving audio that's any better. Like the noise canceling doesn't fix
You're not
the fact that you're
so-
only getting stereo.
Right,
Put it
right.
that
So
way.
you're saying
Yeah.
you're not getting better audio. I'm saying you're
Right.
getting less bad audio.
Oh, but it doesn't matter at that point. Your fucking head, your ears are barely functioning as it is. I'm just happy to not get COVID.
I don't
at that point.
understand.
Like,
You have noise canceling headphones, and you're just telling me right now that they're useless. It doesn't make any sense.
I'm telling you that the stereo that you're getting doesn't change from whether you have noise
That's
canceling
fine.
or not.
It's
Yeah.
still, you could get mono, and noise canceling would still be good.
No, it
Yes.
wouldn't.
Yes, it
That's
would.
what this
John,
is what I'm
pipe in.
saying. I
Join my
disagree.
team. This is a
I
nonsense
disagree.
argument.
I disagree 100%. You're still getting the same source. It's stereo. I'm not getting 5.1. I'm not getting 7.1. I'm definitely not getting anything that matters. So it doesn't matter what noise canceling.
But you're not getting
situation
airplane
you
noise.
get.
All right, you guys ready for some special
Hey!
features?
Yeah, what do we got? What do we got?
There's a shit ton of special features.
Why?
Oh, because it's Spielberg and he's got shit tons of money.
Right.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah,
movie
why?
did well. And
Yeah, like
sold
what
lots of them.
else do we need?
Do you guys want to start with? So there was an hour and a half long documentary about the shooting war. It's called the shooting war because there was a lot. It was the first war of any substance that was filmed, and it was filmed almost entirely by people with video cameras and people with cameras. So there's a lot of footage, and they basically go through the entire war.
As usually happens when people film things.
What? What did I say?
Video cameras. Well, usually when I'm just confused. It's like,
I'm just sorry.
What else would they film with?
You can shoot a gun. You can shoot a camera, like a film camera. You can also shoot rolling camera, movie camera, or whatever.
Right. Okay.
So gotcha. I was just sorry if it was confusing. I was just trying to clarify that this has movie cameras. This war was filmed on movie cameras.
With movie cameras.
Yeah, and there's a ton of footage. So I could start at that documentary, or I could just do the making of featurettes first.
You just start wherever you
go.
Want to start,
buddy. You know what you're talking about here.
You're in
charge.
charge.
Let you decide.
Yeah. You edit this, so it's all yours.
Well, it's all staying in, so what do I care? I'm trying to wean myself off over editing with the kid coming and all that stuff. The story was based on a real family, the Milan family, where all the brothers died within 1 week, or 3 of the 4 brothers died within 1 week, and they tried to go find the 4th brother to send home.
But actually, the 3rd brother didn't die. He was a POW, found later.
There's another John fact for you.
All I know is
spoiler alert.
That
it's not true.
I'm surprised that the government even bothered. I'm surprised.
They were so there was also what they said in the movie. There was an instance where there were 5 brothers that went to war together in the same company, and they were all on a ship, the Sullivans, and the ship sunk, and all 5 of them died, and it was like a national tragedy. So I think it wasn't just like for the sake of the mother; it was for the sake of getting like tragic shit out of the news. I think.
Yeah.
So it's also good to keep a mother happy, but like you're thinking about winning the war. That is the most important thing. So I have to imagine
people keeping people on board for the war is
and to make you think that
this.
Like the country's looking out for the soldiers too. It's like, oh, we realized that was a bad idea. Here's how we're changing it. You know what I mean?
But see, like when did that shift? Because I don't feel like that's a thing now, right? Like you're just a worker.
Is it not? Do they put people together in the same companies?
Are you fucking kidding me? I think we don't even understand how many people are dying when we were at war. The PR now is different. It's like we don't tell them a goddamn thing. Let alone, we tell them that somebody's family died.
Yeah, I think it's spread out enough now where it's not as seemingly tragic to us, right? If you had like a brother die 2 years apart, that's not as bad as 3 brothers dying within a week, right?
No, I'm saying that nobody's paying attention to 3 brothers dying, period, at this point. At all.
Yeah.
Ever.
I think they would if they die within a week.
Well, no, I think that the difference is...
I'm going to argue with TC this entire time.
No. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because the difference is that at the time, you didn't have a choice. You had to go to war. So then you had 4 people die in your family. It wasn't because they went. Now, you go because you decide to go. So, like, if your family dies, that's not as big of a deal as like when you were decided you have to go to war.
I can get on board with that.
Was, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's probably a factor in it.
You're right. Like they're not in charge anymore. It's like you want to show up to war, then you show up to war, whether you're a family or not. But back then, it was like you have to come to war, and
everyone's pitching in.
Yeah, right. So I
give us your teenage boys.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that I don't notice the fact that there might be family members in the wars anymore.
People are dying a lot slower too. I mean, 40 million people died in 4 years in this war.
Isn't
that is just
crazy?
I can't even imagine. I can't comprehend that number of people. Fucking nuts. There were people assigned to just taking care of the bodies. That was their job the entire time.
I mean, I feel like they still are.
They added, so the shot in the graveyard, that was obviously the real memorial graveyard, but they added a stone to get a good shot. So they were defacing sacred ground for movie props to get a nice, pretty shot.
That seems right.
There was behind-the-scenes footage of Spielberg, standing on a dead body in this big grave, being like, I'm going to bring the camera down here. I'm going to bring it over here. We're going to put the fake one here. We're going to put friggin' the old guy there. I'm like, okay, this is fucking odd.
And then you start to wonder, like, can you imagine that the people do this for a living?
For at the same time, it's weird that it's Hollywood, but they're trying to memorialize some terrible thing and try to, like, I think you could easily say this movie's trying to stop war from happening. And that was the intent of a lot of people, to show like how horrible it is and how it should be stopped and it should make you sick and it shouldn't be fun, So that's, it's kind of worth it, right?
$200 million on it. And then they're like, it shouldn't be a part of that. Yeah, we shouldn't make money off war or anything, but like,
it's a perfect job. You're a good person and you're filthy rich. Like, what's wrong with that? It's great.
That's fucking garbage.
Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg were good friends before making this movie.
And then,
well, so they were such good friends. Their kids hung out. They hung out all the time. They talked about never making a movie together because they didn't want it to fuck with their relationship.
Ruin the relationship. Yeah.
But Spielberg got the script separately from Hanks. And when they were hanging out with each other, they just brought up, they're like, I got this really good script. I'm thinking about doing it. And they both said that. And they're like, fuck. This means we have to work together.
And how many NDAs did they break by doing that? Yeah.
Who cares? It's Spielberg and Hanks. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Imagine those fucking pricks.
They probably already paid it just to tell the story. What the fuck do they care?
I know.
They had a guy named Dale Dye, Captain Dale Dye. He was on set all the time. He's ex-military that ended up, he was so mad at how Hollywood did war movies that he went to Hollywood and started advertising himself as an advisor to all these movies. And he had been on 16 movies before this one. He was on the set every day for this one. And he advised all like the weapon types, like what people would do, the formation strategies and all this stuff. And for 10 days before the shooting of this movie, all the actors went through a boot camp. That was a real Army boot camp.
Really?
It was
not all of them.
It was all of them.
Matt
the main
Damon
characters
did not. Matt
Well,
Damon did
that
not.
makes sense. Matt Damon's a stud.
Because they
We don't
wanted
need to
him to
bring
be.
him in.
They also wanted the other characters to be more, to build some resentment. They didn't want them hanging out.
Oh, they
with
didn't
Matt.
say that. Was that in the Wikipedia or something?
I thought
They
saw
said
that,
all
yeah,
of
in
it.
Wikipedia. Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
okay. I believe
yeah.
you, but because these making ofs are pretty high level information, they just said all of the main
Well, and
crew.
you could also say Matt isn't really main.
in the main crew. Yeah, I guess you could say that too.
He's not the main
He's not.
set of soldiers
Yeah,
there.
that's a
But
good
apparently it was Tom Hanks and this guy that talked Spielberg into it. And then there's a quote. They wanted to quit, but Tom Hanks was like urging them to get through it.
Like halfway through it, they wanted to quit.
Right. Yeah, that they were just like halfway through it. And they thought it was just really cool how here's Tom Hanks is, he's the big star of the cast, and he's the one pushing them to do it. So it's sort of interesting that Tom's like
They didn't mention that
Tom,
either. They were
Tom
all
just seems so mellow. This works really well for him in all of these roles. He just seems such a chill guy in a lot of ways, even though he's going through all kinds of shit. He just seems so like there's a sort of boringness to him that makes all of these roles work really well.
But I kind of know what you mean.
I don't mean that as a criticism. I think it's what
and
makes
I don't know,
it work.
maybe,
So.
He's so
to be
confident,
fair-
and he doesn't need to like overact really.
But
it
so
seems
is
like.
Matt Damon. That's Matt
Hey,
Damon
yeah.
now.
Yeah, I
Right?
agree. Yeah.
So maybe he wasn't then, and now he is.
This was even before Good Will Hunting too. So
Was it?
They didn't know that Good Will Hunting was going to be the big hit that it was.
So was this his first role that he ever did?
I think so.
No,
If it was,
I thought
before
Good Will Hunting was the first
No,
thing that he did, but
it's
Well,
not.
he was already.
TC,
They were
you're the
shooting
expert.
Good Will Hunting. They were shooting Good Will Hunting
at the same time.
Yes. So either that or
work?
it just been close in. Maybe it was in post production.
We're going to Matt Damon's IMDb again, folks. Hold
All
on.
right.
well,
Go
we're
ahead,
going
go.
to the vote. Yeah,
Let's go to the source here.
To the internet, where all the answers are. Producer, don't give me producer IMDb. What do you think I'm doing on the Matt Damon IMDb page?
Well, you just want to see what he paid for. No, I want to see what he acted.
Oh, he was in Mystic Pizza.
Yeah.
He was in
Julia Roberts.
The Field
film.
of Dreams.
That was also Julia Roberts' big breakout role too, right? Mystic Pizza.
Could be.
I think
Sounds
so.
right. No, he was in a bunch of stuff that Field of Dreams I've heard of. He was one of the baseball players.
But he was, young.
Or a
Yeah,
baseball
that's
fan
illegal
at
there.
Fenway Park, uncredited. He was in Chasing Amy beforehand. Wait, Good Will Hunting was a year before Saving Private Ryan.
I mean,
At
that
least it was
makes more
released
sense.
that way.
That
It
makes
was
more
released
sense.
that way. But he was filming it before it was released. Before
Yeah,
they
but
didn't know.
aren't they all?
Yes. But so he.
So they didn't have the.
He
okay,
wasn't a big
gotcha.
star. He
couldn't
wasn't a
help
big
myself.
star.
They knew he was going to
when
be.
they-
He's the main character, and it's got
It
Steven
was
Spielberg.
way-
Come on.
They were figuring out how to shoot it before they launched
They
it.
were
Yeah.
they were wondering how big their pockets were going to have to be to collect all this money they were about to make with this thing.
And that's when I disagree. I'm like, none of them were arguing about their pockets. They already had it contracted, signed.
They might have got
Well, no,
Matt Damon
they-
for cheap because
the
he
way
was a
they-
nobody.
The way that
100%
they did
doubt
films, it's more like no money up front, but we get a percent of.
That's the good deal. So 6 days, there were 6 days out is what they said. And in the documentaries, all the actors were, they didn't say Tom Hanks kept him there. They said it was hard, but they said they really appreciated it. They basically made them hike with they did 3 days of weapons training, so they knew all how to use their weapons and stuff. they taught the sniper how to actually shoot a sniper rifle and all that stuff, how people in the Army would run with a gun, how they would fire them, all that stuff. And then they did a 6-day hike in the rain with packs on. They had to sleep in the mud in like those pitching tents, like the tiny, shitty Army tents. Get up at 5 o'clock and just walk all day, basically.
Now that seems right.
Yeah.
That's dead on.
That sounds like it sucks.
We're preparing you for this role. That makes sense.
Yeah. And everyone appreciated it because it's like they felt miserable all the time. And some of the people were like, all right, this is miserable. I'm having a really bad time, but I'm going to try to focus on how I feel now so I can try to come back to this place when the movie requires it of me.
And not to mention that they must have felt some connection to the guys that were doing that day in and day out.
Yeah.
Right.
And as odd as that sounds, I kind of believe them.
Yep. No, I love the fact that they do stuff like that. You know, I think that that's part of the industry. That's the cool part.
Yeah.
Of like, we're going to throw ourselves into the situation that we're about to shoot. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's the bullshit that I don't believe in, which is very rare of those things.
Where does Willem Dafoe living in a shack for the White House fall there? Where does that fall?
Are they really climbing up the fucking thing to see someone jerking off? No, nobody's.
But I believed it.
But I believed it. Right. But you see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, John, go ahead.
No, it just took me a while to find this in the Wikipedia page. So Spielberg wanted a relatively unknown actor to play Private Ryan, and he's visited the set of Good Will Hunting, and Robin Williams introduced him to Damon. When Spielberg cast him shortly after, believing he possessed this great American every boy look, unaware that Good Will Hunting's success would significantly raise Damon's profile.
Huh. I wonder if they were in the editing room for like over a year for that movie for some reason. That didn't come up when we did that.
Easily, I'm sure.
Maybe securing rights. They probably had a pretty small budget for that. I don't know.
I doubt it.
Right.
Well, did we cover that one? Should we know this?
But they were but even then, think about this was just as he's casting. So this is before pre-production and everything. So there's plenty of time for Good Will Hunting to come out.
Well, no. Let's be quite honest
true.
with the Let's be quite honest with the situation. Whenever it comes down to how much did it cost to edit, that's the tiniest amount that it could possibly cost in comparison to what these people get paid. So, like, if it's in a year's worth of editing, it is nowhere near what they're getting paid for just to show up.
Unless you're a big studio and you need that tentpole for the summer.
Yeah,
if you don't do it in time, you're going to lose all that money.
Post-production is the lowest of the low when it comes to how much it costs to wrangle this situation together. So I wouldn't doubt at all that it was there for a year. And I wouldn't doubt at all that like Matt Damon, all of a sudden came up to high status and the rest of them were like, I can't believe this is happening. I wouldn't doubt it at all.
Well, and Vin Diesel, this was his first real role. He was working as a telemarketer, but he'd done his own films.
And surprisingly, this is also his last real role. Ta-da!
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, I hope you never meet Vin Diesel.
He sucks. I'll never meet him. If I see him, I turn away.
Oh shit, he's so
you
successful.
Suck, Vin Diesel.
Look. What I always come back to is this, and I make fun of all of them. Is if they've got enough money to compete with the guy that we like, doesn't matter because that's all Hollywood is. It's money. Doesn't matter. If it doesn't matter what we think about acting, all that matters is how much Vin Diesel has made for X amount of money for X studios. That's it. It's the same thing that is
disagreed. Artistic merit is the thing.
It's true.
It is measurable.
It's true. At the end of the day, Hollywood doesn't give a fuck about your artistic vision. They care about how much money you're going to make.
Well, Hollywood.
That's the end of it.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, Vin Diesel exists because of Hollywood.
Yes.
This whole movie exists
because of Spielberg. Thanks, Spielberg.
But Spielberg
Another one in the
is Hollywood.
Actually,
Spielberg
again, to be
Hollywood.
fair, too, this movie was really kicked off well before Spielberg was involved. And again, this is the Wikipedia stuff. Was that like the?
He talked about this too. Yeah,
right. So
they say he almost didn't want to do it at the same time as The Lost World and Amistad, but then
well,
oh wow.
But this is also like Mark Gordon was this big fan of Robert Odet's previous work, and so Gordon founded this independent film studio, Mutual Film Company, alongside producer Gary Levinson, and they bought the draft. They brought it to Paramount Pictures executives, and they responded positively. Hired Rodat, wrote the script, Michael Bay was hired as the director initially, but left the
Why
project.
does he always get hired as the director first and then get fired?
Because he could not resolve how to approach the material. Is what this says.
I feel like that's a common thing from Michael Bay.
Then Hanks got the script, who was immediately interested, met with Gordon Levinson. Hanks shared the script with Spielberg, who agreed to direct because the pair had wanted to work together for some time.
That's different.
I know.
Which one? Which one?
But
Hanks showed it to Spielberg. It didn't happen. Spielberg said he got it independently. Separately.
I know. Wikipedia may be wrong. There's 2 quotes here, but then what
That's
happened?
Not wrong. It's just how it goes.
What happened then is once Spielberg is on board, DreamWorks Pictures then got involved with this financer, and then basically Gordon and Levinson were removed from the production more or less. Basically, they had no creative input, equity, or rights. Those are the people that got this film moving. And then once Spielberg got involved, at least from the Wikipedia page, they're like, well, then now they're out of the pictures. They just get a one-off payment and then they're out.
I mean, this is Hollywood, guys. I mean, I hate to say it, but this is the normal day to day.
Levinson is quoted saying, "Well, what going in, what the score is. I guess it's unspoken that when you hire Spielberg, you're not going to be on the set making decisions."
Right.
So anyway, so you're talking about
that shitty?
Who got this film started?
Isn't that shitty?
Them.
The idea that you might be involved in the
these
story.
people that really wanted to make this film, and then
it was all of them. Spielberg launched into the stratosphere, right? It's all important.
Yeah, I guess so.
No, I think
it takes a lot of yeses to make a movie go forward.
It does, but certainly
Denny, you nailed it.
Once the big stars get involved, though, it does make sense that it's like, oh, it was their baby. They had this whole production company around it, and Spielberg comes in and poof.
Yeah.
That also
seems
makes
to happen
sense
for Spielberg, right? Once he kind of brings his hammer into a project, it's going to go forward if he wants to go forward for the most part. So back in 93-ish, he made Jurassic Park and Schindler's List in the same year, and that was a lot. I think we had some trivia on Jurassic Park, him saying he doesn't even remember editing that movie or something, and he was just completely not sleeping at that period of time. These were the next 3 movies that he made. And he made them all within a year. It was A Lost World, Amistad, and Saving Private Ryan. And he was thinking he'd only make 2 in a year, but then he said, fuck it, maybe I can do 3. So he had no time to prepare for anything in this movie. He usually does storyboards and stuff for movies, but for Saving Private Ryan, he basically arrived on set and started shooting. So he didn't have storyboards for anything.
So who did?
Nobody did. So what he said he did...
Not that he didn't have time, is that he also wanted it this way.
Yes, he did.
Right.
And he said after, he was older when he was being interviewed. He's like, sometimes I work better when I'm flying by the seat of my pants, which, Jaws is one of his best movies, and he totally was doing it then, so I can kind of buy that. But he also said, Raiders of the Lost Ark was totally storyboarded, but he didn't like it how when what they were shooting didn't match what he had in the storyboard, he would move entire buildings a few feet just so they matched exactly what he had in the storyboards. So he became totally anal, or becomes totally anal when he has storyboards. So with this one, he had who he said his favorite cinematographer he's ever worked with. He worked with him for Schindler's List. They worked together. They built all these sets. They thought of how to do action scenes on the spot. Spielberg was taking, ideas from all of the actors and things like that. The Army instructor guy that was on set, he would give ideas, and they basically just threw together action scenes on these sets that they built, which is,
I'm sorry, but
totally
I hear this
insane.
kind of shit, and they would annoy me to no end.
But it's amazing that Spielberg is so good, he can make an edit in his head on set over the course of a long period of time. Like the Omaha Beach shoot, they got 5 shots a day, and the amount of editing that was done in that scene, it must have taken them forever to shoot that entire scene. And he was, doing it day to day, creating the edit, creating the tension, creating the amount of linearness that is there in that scene in his head without storyboards, which to me is pretty damn incredible. And I think that he's right in thinking that the movie would be different if there were storyboards. It might be a little more stilted or something. I don't know.
I'm going to go ahead and just hold my tongue and say
Did you not think it was amazing? This is how he did it, TC. How could you not appreciate
way
that?
more than I do.
Yeah.
Right. I get it. But I will say that that's a lot of money on the line for someone just winging it. And at the end of the day, sometimes you get lucky. And you get lucky over and over again. You know why? Because there's a lot of talented people that build you up and make sure that stuff happens and make sure that they take the reins for you when you don't. And nobody
You're talking
talks
shit on
about
Spielberg, TC?
Yeah,
You're talking shit on
I'm
Spielberg.
just saying, nobody talks about those things. They only get to hear about these little things. And I will say this, there is no one better than Spielberg, period. There were goddamn many moments, I'm sure, that were from the financiers that were like, you don't know what you're doing. And at the end of the day, when you get on the goddamn beach and you shoot all these things, is there not just tension naturally? There is. Right?
But he's using it. He's using all of it. From like all the pressure from the finance people, all the input from all the actors. I swear to God,
what doesn't get enough credit is the fact that the DP shot it close. The DP figured out where to go. The DP had the actors go a certain way. The DP was the one that decided what the shots were at any given moment. So
isn't that what I'm saying?
I'm not arguing with you. I just mean that, like, at the end of the day, when I hear stuff like that, I just wish they wouldn't say those things, because at the end of the day, those things admonish the fact that other people are the ones a lot of times making those calls and getting those shots and making the actors do what they do. It's not always the director, even though they would love to make it. And I think that more oftentimes than not, yes, it's the director when it comes to someone who's paying attention to each situation that they're doing. When you're admitting to the fact that you have 3 different projects going at once and you're barely able to keep up, you start to lose.
You should watch. So all I can say to this point is, watch some of the behind the scenes thing. And I'm not like, I don't think the way they show it or try to describe it is trying to take away from anybody else's input. It's trying to say that they do have the input, but it's all filtered through Spielberg like a project director, and he gives them credit, but he's the one that needs to say yes or no to it. If he doesn't want it, he'll say no.
Of course.
But he is in total control, from what it seems like, of every aspect of what's going on, from the camera to the action to the angle and the lighting and everything. He has his hand in all of it. Nobody's running without his permission, right? And I think that's
until you have 3 projects going at once and you can't.
Well, they're not at once. They're not at once.
Well, I mean,
they were one after the other within a year. There's probably some overlap, but when he's on set,
right? But that's what I'm saying, right? I'm just saying, like, the idea of it only being about him is it's
obviously a crew thing. I'm just saying that Spielberg is able to get his hands in all the stuff more than anybody else and make the shit he makes, even when he's flying by the seat of his pants, and it's artistically, creditable, and it's a blockbuster. You know what I mean? Like, it's nuts. I don't think you could talk enough about how good he is as a director. Personally.
And I can't agree with you more.
Yeah, we're in agreement.
I just don't know if that always encompasses the entire project and the entire, situation. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, when you're shooting that beach and you've got people dying left and right, and you've got fucking, like, what's a director really doing?
Watch the behind the scenes.
I know, but I'm just saying.
He's walking around the set in the when they're setting up the shot. He has little flags in the ground. He's putting the flags in of where the actors are going to go.
Where you need to end up.
He's telling individual actors how they're going to get shot, 100%. Which way to fall.
Of course. Of course.
He's not, he's not sitting in the chair being like, making some action-y stuff. He's like, telling people exactly what to do.
No, I'm just saying there's more to it than just Spielberg.
So that the busted city they shot in for the last battle scene with the tanks, that was totally 100% constructed. That was a set.
Really?
They found this awesome. Open field north of London, and they rented it out, and they built this entire city set. And all the planes were real, all the explosions were real. Like, they needed a spot where they could get air clearance. They needed a spot where they could have loud noises.
Wow.
Where they could set fires. All the special effects almost entirely were real in this movie. Any of the close-up gore stuff, or any of the fire stuff, or any of the explosion stuff, all that was real. They only pointed out a couple of scenes where there was like some massive scale stuff, like the last shot on Omaha Beach where it pans up and you see like a ton of ships in the ocean and things like that.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was CG.
I thought that was good.
Yeah, it was good.
I mean, we all knew it was CG.
You're right. They didn't hire the ships for half a second to shot.
Right,
no chance.
Right.
But surprisingly, most of the rest of the footage was real. They had some pretty serious stunt stuff going on. One of the craziest behind the scene things I had was the scene where they flamethrowed inside that gun tower on Omaha Beach.
Dude, that was serious.
And the dudes flew out of the window. That happened. They did that.
Really?
Yes.
Get out of here.
What happened to the behind the scenes is, so like they talked about, you can put a man on fire for 15 seconds, but no longer than that. Just a little tip for you guys.
Wait, what?
If you're in one of those fire suits, you can be in there for 15 seconds.
And then after that,
you're going to get hurt, right? So they have to
it totally burns through the suit.
And no, so what happens is it starts it heats up the air in the suit enough where like you start breathing really hot air and it can burn your lungs. So the first thing they do is they put you out and then they rip your little mask off and then you're usually good. But they put a bunch of fireproof blankets like way down below on top of cardboard boxes. They used cardboard boxes, John. I know you don't believe it, but they did. Cardboard boxes, flame retardant blankets
into the cardboard boxes?
like the guys on fire falling out of the tower onto cardboard boxes with a fire retardant blanket on it, and they wet down the blankets. And as soon as the dudes landed, there was a bunch of guys down there with other blankets just running and throwing the blankets over them. Lots of people on fire in this movie. One of the other craziest behind the scene things was there was a shot where there were two guys really close to a building and the tank was pointing at them, and one guy ran over, grabbed him and pulled him out of the way, and the building exploded.
Yeah.
They did that. It was two stunt guys, but they had an explosion at the building where those guys were. So how close they were to that explosion was real.
It was like real close.
It was really close. And then they also had like a construction crane with a shipping container with the bottom that opened up, and they dumped a bunch of debris from the sky to like add to the dust for that shot, which was also a pretty cool like movie trick going on at the same time.
I mean, I feel like there was a lot of those things where I was just like, Jesus Christ, how did they conceive of this entire like just destruction around them? Like, so the character's in view, but you have these unbelievable explosions behind them. So it's not just like you're getting hit with a bullet and the dust is moving. It's like the entire hill behind them blew up. Like, I mean, there's a lot of that.
And that was one of the strategies where a lot of the horrible stuff happens right out of the center of the frame, which makes it seem like it's happening everywhere. Because if you put the action right in the center, it's like, I'm just watching this one guy get shot. But like you're saying, they thought of this and they were like, if we put it just outside of who we're focusing on, every time it'll just seem like chaos.
Right.
And it does.
It nailed it. Yeah, they did a great job.
The scene where they blew up on the beach and there were like limbs flying all over the place, 100% real shot. They had real people in uniform in there, and then they built little models of limbs and stuff like that to fly around with them. So it was just like a random smattering of like limbs, half bodies, and real people flailing around in that explosion.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
It's crazy how much stunt work.
And how much money did that cost? I wish we knew like per
This movie
situation.
was not that expensive. It was like, I expected it to be over 100 million, but I think it was like 70 million or something like that, which is still not a small amount.
Bit. No big deal. Yeah,
but this movie
70 million, no biggie.
I don't know. Yeah. This movie looks expensive as shit.
It does.
They built a river in that last set. They built it 2 to 3 feet deep, and they just filled it with water. So that river was fake. Built in a field, which is
how
crazy.
Did they funnel it with water?
It's like a pool. They built a giant pool that looked like a river going through the city.
Fuck. Can you imagine the coordination of that? Like as you're getting ready for
and the way they designed the city is they first built like a scale model of it, and then they went around and like burned parts of the model and cut away pieces of the model and sculpted it like it was being bombed and stuff. And then they built the real city based on this like bombed out miniature that they created. The planes were real, the fire was real, the squibs and explosions all real. I already kind of went over that, but it's still worth mentioning. They purchased a bunch of rubble from surrounding construction sites and populated the set with it. That's nice, recycle there. The costume designer made 3.5 thousand uniforms for the shoots.
Holy shit.
They had to use 7 different companies to make it all on time. They made 2,000 boots. And the company that actually made the boots back in World War II is still around, and they were able to make the exact same boots for this movie. So the boots were very authentic. And then each one of those 3,500 uniforms and the 2,000 boots were each aged, worn, and dyed to make them look like they were worn before. Yeah, and some of them were customized. So that's pretty crazy.
That's pretty crazy.
There were 2,000 guns, and 500 of those guns could fire blanks. And each day, all of the guns had to be inventoried just to make sure no one was stealing them, which probably took a while. And all of the 500 ones that could shoot blanks had to be cleaned. And these are like old-ass rifles. So these people were working like opposite hours of the movie shoot, just cleaning and inventory guns.
Right.
Which
sucks.
A lot of work. The Omaha set was filmed in Ireland.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why?
They couldn't film it in Germany because, or where was it? Paris. Omaha Beach is in Paris, or in France, rather. Wherever it was, a lot of the countries in Europe have rules about what kind of scenes you can shoot in World War II in their areas. So, like, they couldn't get really any other area that would allow them to shoot this kind of scene there. So they found a place that would work in Ireland. They said the logistics were very tough with the tides because this is the ocean and they're shooting a movie. So they put up all these like barricades and stuff, and then the tide goes out. And like, you got to worry about continuity. You got to worry about like the boats in the water and all this shit. So that was pretty tough for them to do. All the actors had to wear earplugs all the time during the battle scenes. So all the explosions were real. They talked a lot about how crazy it was to shoot in it because a lot of the shots the actors would be running through the explosions, the smaller ones. And they just said that they, kind of had tunnel vision. You almost black out, as one of them said. You black out until the end, and then you're scared afterwards of what you just did. But when you're doing it, you're so pumped full of adrenaline that you're just doing it.
Like it's real.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked great. The reactions they had during the explosions were realistic as could be. Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, I never thought to myself, oh, they're acting. Like,
yeah, I was like, oh, these people are dying. That's what I was thinking. They added each bullet hit in the sound mix individually by the sound designer.
That seems right.
They said it was tedious, but important.
But yeah, absolutely. I thought the sound was great as far as natural sounding death is concerned. I mean, I don't know if I know that well, but I think I might after this one. And I thought that all of the, impacts sounded exactly like they would if you were to fantasize about killing, which I'm not.
Not the second.
No, I didn't say that. Yeah. No, it was a great sound. Who was the sound designer? Do you have that?
Gonna make me jump on this again?
I mean, you're
while I look this up. Do you remember when we watched Come and See that somebody talked about, or we read something about how Spielberg screened that movie before making Saving Private Ryan, and we connected that the scene in Come and See when the kids get bombed and the sound drops out and it has a high pitched noise.
Oh,
Spielberg stole that.
Right. Tom Hanks does when he's having the panic attacks.
Yeah, I thought that they kind of stole that, and I thought we thought that for sure because I've thought that since we watched Come and See. Maybe I should have gone back and watched the commentary for that. But listening to the sound designer for this one, he said that the sound of a seashell was his influence. Didn't mention Come and See.
Well, so why would you?
I guess. I came up with this idea.
I mean, I feel like this idea has it's not new, right?
I think it was new in Come and See.
No, but I feel like there's been other references for people that are deaf in movies or, people that don't hear and drop out the actual sound from the ambience and go back into their mind or something. Yeah, I feel like that's a common thing that's been done.
There's a lot of sound designers. I didn't write down his name.
What I would say is that the fact that sound design is coming into the context of editorial, that's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. It's not regular, right? So,
and it's always good when it does.
Well, not always. I mean, Room
most of the time,
sound design too. So,
let's see. All right, the Shooting War thing. Shooting War thingy. It's a documentary. It was narrated by Tom Hanks. They put together a bunch of before scene footage and never before scene footage from World War II. In World War II, the army or like the government in total hired 1,500 civilians that were journalists and cameramen and put them through an army training camp, like an army footage training camp, and sent them off into war to film everything.
Jesus.
The filming camp was in Culver City. It was
classic.
Yeah. The Hal Brooks Studio. That was what it was called in Culver City.
Okay.
Most of these people went to the airborne division, and there was a ton of airborne footage, and there were people that survived that had some pretty fucked up stories. Overall, this entire thing was very terrifying. It was just footage of real people dying.
Damn.
Like the entire time. I hadn't seen a lot of it, so it was fairly crushing. Really good historical document. Wouldn't necessarily recommend it while you're eating dinner before a podcast, but what are you going to do? Got to get as much trivia in there as
something you
can.
might want to see as a human being.
Right.
Deals with the fact that you don't have to go to war.
Yeah. One of the guys in the plane told the story about how the plane was catching on fire, and they all have parachutes on, I guess, and a bunch of people were jumping out the plane, and he was the last person to jump out the plane before the thing exploded behind him, and he could feel the heat, and everyone else in the plane died that didn't jump out after him. Pretty fucked up. They had footage from the flag raising, that famous footage. I forget where it was. This is how good of a historian I am. Should have prefaced this with, I don't follow this shit.
Like George Washington?
No, there's a picture of like 5 soldiers like shoving a flag up. It's an American flag.
I thought that was Iwo Jima, though.
Iwo Jima. Yeah. So there was that picture. There's a picture. There's a few pictures, and there's camera footage, movie camera footage. The guy who shot the movie camera footage of that died 2 days later, so he never saw how famous that became. There's a whole controversy around that photo because they first put up a tinier flag, a smaller flag on a taller pole, and they thought the people wouldn't be able to see it from far away. So they have pictures of that too. And then they put the bigger flag up with even more people shoving it up because it was heavier. The pole was heavier, the flag was bigger. And people think that was, what do they call it? Posed was the term they came up with for a while, because when the guy who took the still photography, the shot was at war for a while. Let me start that over. The guy who did the still photographer shot was at war for a while, and then came somewhere where the picture was blowing up and famous, and they thought he knew what it was. And he was like, I don't know which picture it is. Is it the one where people are posing in front of the flag? And there was another picture he took where he had people actually posing in front of the flag when it was already up. But people interpreted that where the people pushing the flag up were doing it in a posed or, predetermined manner. So the photo was fake and it was like propaganda or something. And people still believe that, which is an odd thing. Just throwing that out there.
Is it odd?
It's a little odd. It's kind of normal,
I feel like
I guess.
That's a very nominal thing compared to stop the steal and all that bullshit.
Yeah, it's true.
This is, there was no internet back then. They didn't know.
Very true. That is true. There were a lot of famous directors they talked to that did combat footage. Russ Meyer was one of them. Strangely, I think he did
who's that?
Sleazeball movies later on.
Who?
Russ Meyer.
No, I know, but what movies? You got any?
I never saw any of them, but they're all like schlocky 70s movies, I think.
I've never heard of them. That's the only reason why I asked, because I'm sure the listeners have.
Yeah, Beneath the Valley of the Vixens. I think it was all like softcore porn type of stuff.
Jesus.
Faster Pussycat Kill Kill.
Oh, so we don't need to know this guy.
Yeah, but he became a director afterwards. But John Ford, one of the most famous directors of all time, who did a bunch of the most famous Westerns with, I don't know any of them. John, do you know any of those old Westerns?
Yeah.
No, he did old Westerns. He was there. He got a lot of footage at the Battle of Midway, which was a naval-based battle where half the Japanese carriers were lost during that period of time. He was there. He got injured in an explosion, and the footage he got him an Oscar for a short documentary back then. He won 2 Oscars for the footage that he got. John Huston was also one. We also watched one of his movies at least. Anyone?
John Huston. I don't remember that name
Spelled Huston. John. I don't think we knew if it was.
How do you spell that?
Huston.
Huston.
The Maltese Falcon.
Yeah.
And I think he write Chinatown?
He wrote it?
Oh, he's also an actor too. He's like a big fat guy.
Yeah.
One of those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take him as he comes.
So him too, and the other really famous guy, Richard Brooks, won Oscars after this, also made a documentary about the movie. There was some pretty fucked up footage. They had a bunch of concentration camp footage, a bunch of footage of people killing themselves, a lot of people on fire, just people getting shot.
Wait, so stock footage? Stock footage?
I mean, what is stock footage?
Or they actually shot it?
They shot it. These people on battlefields were filming the shit that they were doing. And some of the stuff said...
That's what I mean. So it's basically stock footage. It means that someone else shot this. It wasn't for the film.
Right. No, this whole thing was footage shot back in like between 1941 and 1945.
So stock footage. Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
well, they had some of the people
existed.
that shot it interviewed in this
No,
documentary.
I know,
too.
but like already existing footage.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But not stock to me makes it seem like it's been in storage available for a while. But a lot of this stuff was like in storage but unavailable and unseen for a while.
Nah, to me, stock is anything that was shot before we saw it later.
Before the thing you're watching.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And it wasn't actually shot.
Okay.
Right, for the movie.
Then that. Yeah. And
which nowadays you can have an AI do, apparently. But hey, what do I know?
The D-Day footage, most of the existing stuff was from the Coast Guard that never went to the beach. A lot of the people that went to the beach to film died because D-Day was a fucking mess.
Right.
But they had a lot more than what exists because all the beach footage was gathered up after they won, almost all of it, given to somebody to give to like a superior. And when they were boating it back, somebody dropped it in the water and lost all the footage.
Oh, Jesus.
So there's like a few seconds of real footage from the beach during D-Day. And that's apparently pretty famous footage.
I would imagine. I mean, Jesus Christ.
But I'd recommend it if you're, it's important, but it's really sad. So just
There
like
you
this
go.
movie,
Yeah.
kind of lines up nicely. We talk a lot about Come and See being like the most horrific war movie, if you want to call it that, we've ever seen. This movie compares, I think. I didn't think it would have, but I think it does.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's a different perspective is what it's showing you, right?
Yeah.
The Come and See is more about the civilians caught up in the war, not so much the soldiers, right? So, but yeah, no, it certainly is just as effective and horrifying
And dramatic.
of how bad it can be.
Yeah.
Would you put this movie in the top 50, you guys?
1,000%.
Wait,
yes.
you said you could change the question.
250 is a given
Yes.
from the
Yes.
responses so far.
All right, it's fair.
It's a yes
well,
and a yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Nice. All right. I mean, I think we're on like a friggin' train to great movies all the way to
I
the
know.
end.
It should be good, right? Like from now on, we should get excited.
I hope
I
so.
hope.
I am excited for the next one, but do we want to do a bonus movie? I have some thoughts.
Oh, it's a bonus.
Okay, we have thoughts. Well, we
Do you have any
have.
suggestions, John?
No, we might have to take it offline. I don't know exactly.
There you go. That's
what's
what I'm
next on
looking
the,
for.
what's
So
next on the
anyway,
list?
hey guys,
So
what are we
you
doing
were-
next week? We don't know.
Spirited Away.
Wait,
Oh,
Spirited
what's
Away?
next? Ooh, let's do that.
Oh, let's
'cause,
do that.
So
I would
Spirited
love
Away,
to watch that.
What I'm thinking of is that the Boy and the Heron is coming out in December. So
Right.
if we watch this now, we could time this out where if you do one more bonus movie now, then we can line up Spirited Away followed by The Boy and the
And
Heron.
All right,
followed by
folks.
the
So I
Wizard.
guess
So-
we've just figured out what we're watching next week. We're going to watch Spirited Away.
Nope. We'll put it on the
Well,
website. There you go. Go to the
I see
website.
your
There you
point.
go.
I see your point. Yeah, we want. It'd be nice to do those one after another. To do Spirited Away and then go be able to go to the theater and see Boy and Heron. So,
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right. We'll figure it out.
Figure out something.
Once
then.
again.
And y'all can go fuck yourself. All right. Have a good night,
Especially
guys.
Spielberg.
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah, how you going? Fuck you, Spielberg. I don't give a fuck about your spackling in the desert.
Top 'em.